They say that silence is golden, but in this three-story glass mansion in the Hamptons, silence felt like a trap. My name is Maya. I'm 20 years old, and my life is a series of expensive dresses and empty rooms. My parents left for Paris yesterday, leaving me alone in this massive house, or so I thought. I didn't realize that the man working in our garden, the one I had been watching from my window for months, was waiting for the same thing I was. The moment the gates closed and the world went away, the rules we lived by started to melt under the summer sun. The heat was unbearable. I stood on the balcony, my silk robe barely touching my skin. Down below, Leo was working. He was the new groundskeeper, only 23, with skin like bronze and eyes that seemed to read my darkest thoughts. Every time he wiped the sweat from his brow, I felt a shiver that had nothing to do with the cold. "Leo," I called out. My voice was small, but in the stillness of the afternoon, it sounded like a thunderclap. He stopped. He looked up, and for the first time, he didn't look away. There was no Miss Maya in his eyes anymore. There was only a man looking at a woman. "The house is empty, Leo," I whispered, loud enough for only the wind to carry. "And it's much cooler inside." The forbidden threshold. The air hummed softly as Leo stepped into the marble foyer. He looked out of place with his dirt-stained boots and sun-drenched shirt, but he had never looked more beautiful. The contrast between my world of luxury and his world of raw strength was electric. "You shouldn't have invited me in, Maya," he said. His voice was a deep, rough velvet that made my knees weak. "Why?" I asked, stepping closer until I could smell the scent of rain, earth, and something primal on him. "Every time I stay here, I imagine this, imagining what it would be like to finally touch the girl in the golden cage." I took his hand and placed it on my waist. The heat of his palm burned through the silk. "The cage is open, Leo, and there's no one here to stop us." He didn't wait any longer. He swept me into his arms, his strength effortless. As he carried me up the grand staircase, the reality of what we were doing hit me. He was the help. I was the princess. But in the dim light of my bedroom, those titles meant nothing. The storm that had been brewing in our hearts for months finally broke. Every touch was a rebellion. Every breath was a secret. Behind those locked doors, we weren't just a rich girl and a gardener. We were two souls devouring the forbidden fruit, lost in a night where the only law was the rhythm of our hearts. By the time the moon was high, I realized that some secrets are too powerful to ever be forgotten. We had crossed a line, and there was no going back to the way things were. The moon was the only witness to our rebellion. Inside the room, the air was heavy with the scent of Leo's skin and the lingering heat of our shared breaths. Every time his hand moved against mine, it felt like a signature on a contract we could never tear up. But as the clock chimed midnight, reality began to seep through the cracks. "What if they come back early, Leo?" I whispered, my head resting on his chest, listening to the steady thrum of his heart. He tightened his grip on me. "Then I'll face them. I've lived my whole life following rules, Maya. For one night with you, I'm willing to break every single one of them." We knew the risks. If my father found out, Leo wouldn't just lose his job. He would lose everything. And I would be sent away, locked in a different cage. But the danger only made the fire between us burn brighter. In the shadows of the mansion, we weren't just playing a game anymore. We were falling into a void where only we existed. The sound of the gate. The next morning brought a terrifying clarity. The sun was sharp, exposing the mess of silk sheets and the secret we had shared. Leo was dressing quietly by the window, his silhouette dark against the morning glow. Suddenly, the heavy iron gates of the estate groaned. My heart stopped. A black car was pulling into the driveway. My parents! I gasped, scrambling to the window. They weren't supposed to be back until tonight. Panic flared in Leo's eyes, but only for a second. He looked at me, then at the door. If he was caught in my room, there was no explanation that could save him. Go through the back servant's entrance, I urged, my voice trembling. Leo, hurry! He grabbed my hand, pulling me into one last desperate kiss. It tasted of fear and adrenaline. This isn't the end, Maya. I don't care about the mansion. I only care about you. I watched him slip out of the balcony, disappearing into the thick ivy, just as I heard my mother's high heels clicking on the marble floor downstairs. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst. I had to play the part of the perfect daughter again, while my soul was still out there in the garden with him. The final choice. Conclusion. Maya. The week that followed was a slow torture. My parents were always there, their voices echoing through the halls like judges. I saw Leo every day from the balcony. He was back to being the gardener, silent, focused, his eyes never straying toward my window. But I couldn't go back. The golden cage felt smaller than ever. One night, under a torrential downpour, I made my choice. I didn't take my jewelry, my expensive bags, or my status. I took a small suitcase and walked out into the rain. I found him in the small cottage at the edge of the estate. When he opened the door and saw me drenched, shivering, and stripped of my royalty, he didn't ask questions. He just pulled me into the warmth of his arms. I'm leaving, Leo, I said, looking up at him. I can't stay in that house anymore. I'd rather be nowhere with you than be someone I'm not in there. Leo smiled, a raw, beautiful expression I had never seen before. I've been waiting for you to say that. My truck is packed. We leave tonight. As we drove away from the Hamptons, the massive mansion fading into a tiny speck in the rearview mirror, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I was 20, I was broke, and I was technically a fugitive from my own life, but for the first time, I was free. The gardener and the girl had left the garden behind, heading toward a horizon where the only rules were the ones we made together.